The lecture that I'm going to be giving is called Library Problems and Innovative Solutions. And before I start the lecture, let me talk a little bit about the purpose of this lecture. What we want to do with the training is give the participants ideas about innovation that happens in public libraries around the world. And so in this particular lecture, we start off with talking about where public libraries have been, but we quickly want to move them into where public libraries can go. And we've given them multiple examples of public libraries around the world, but this is a great place for you to use this material and sort of adapt it to local circumstances and local public libraries. So you may replace some of these examples with examples that you have in the public libraries in your country. What you want to focus on when you're giving this lecture is that innovation happens because of a problem, and we solve the problem to make it better for the user. So it's very important to kind of drive these two principles together, that it's really about the users and it's about solving problems so that the users can best use the libraries. And you'll see that's how we set up the slides in order to do this. And it tends to work out really well. Don't spend a lot of time going over each of the slides. The idea is to kind of give sort of an overview and give more time for the participants to start thinking about and dreaming about what they might do in their own particular libraries. So let's get started. Library problems and innovative solutions. So when we think about libraries, sometimes it's good to sort of go to the past and think about, well, how were libraries in the past? What distinguished the libraries in the past? So take a look at this picture that's on the screen in front of you and tell me what you see. Right, so you see people standing silently looking to retrieve books. Looks like the only thing that's happening in this library is that people are reading. There's nothing very attractive about this library. The librarian looks like she's seated at the desk and she's not gonna make any mistakes, and you're only gonna be allowed to check out so many books. This is how libraries used to be. And this is how most people today still think of libraries, which is why we have sometimes problem bringing people into libraries, because they think it's only about reading. And in fact, libraries are about connecting information to the individuals who are looking for a particular type of information. In this slide, we see the international symbol of libraries. And while it's a great symbol, it says one thing to the people looking at it. It says libraries are for reading. And we all know that that's no longer true. Libraries are also about computers, they're about videos, they're about all kinds of different types of information that's stored in different types of formats. So we need to really think about our public who's getting these messages that libraries haven't changed. So how do we change the mind of our public? What kinds of things can we do to create an idea that libraries can be engaging? One of the things that we do is we think about innovation. Innovation is the process of changing, adapting, or inventing a good or service that improves or creates value for our users. And the characteristics of successful innovations are that they solve a problem, it's all about the users, and the good innovations do not always require funding. This last point is critical because most people say, well, I can't innovate because I don't have any money. In fact, a lot of innovation does not need a lot of money. It just needs people to think in different ways and adapt to what is happening in their libraries. We are going to look at global perspective of library problems and innovative solutions in 3 areas: services for everyone, a technology hub in a digital world, welcoming libraries, friendly spaces, collections, policies, and librarians. In terms of services for everyone, we're looking at a library that's in Nepal. It's a rural library, and the population it serves are farmers. And the farmers were coming to the library and looking for information on problems that their animals were having. And they weren't finding the information. And it was also that some of the farmers did not have the literacy skills needed to search for some of the information on the computers. So the librarians thought, well, we still have this information need. What are we going to do? And they decided to invite a local veterinarian to the library and ask people to bring their animals in front of the library. And the veterinarian spent some time with them talking about some of the problems he was seeing and how the farmers might resolve some of these problems. Again, it's a way of thinking about the library as extending out into the community. Also under services for everyone, we're now in Myanmar. And the problem here was that there are many children in the street who have no time to go to the library. They are told by their parents they're supposed to spend their days collecting discarded plastic bottles for resale. And so those children are in the streets collecting these plastic bottles. The librarian noticed that and thought, well, what if I created a little space outside of the library and I brought some tablets out? And the children can stop for 10, 15, 20 minutes, take a little break in their day, and play with the tablets or look for information or read. Services for everyone in Finland. Finland received a large group of Syrian refugees, and they were not coming to the library, so the librarians went out to talk to them and said, what would you like to see in your library? And they said they wanted a weekly Finnish language cafe, a place where they could come and learn how to speak Finnish. And indeed, that's what the librarians did, and the refugees started coming to the library. We're now going to talk about technology hubs in a digital world, and here we're going to move to Namibia. Namibia, the children were not so much engaged in the library, and they decided that what they wanted to do was to engage them with technology. So they built a technology lab that's designed for students, and it requires little adult supervision. If you notice, the children all have on their own headphones, and they're working on keyboards that are made for children. They're much larger, they're colorful, and it's easier for the children to use them. Nowadays, they have the reverse problem. The children want to skip school and come to the library instead. In Romania, they decided to use technology with teenagers. When they were doing sort of a community assessment, they realized that the teenagers were not coming to the library. So they talked to the youth from ages 13 to 21 years old, and they asked them what they were interested in, and they said technology. And so the librarians decided, well, what if we were to purchase production equipment for youth to create videos? And they taught the youth how to use the cameras, how to use the sound recording systems, and to create their own YouTubes. Again, in technology hubs in a digital world in the Philippines, here they were conscious that the seniors in the community did not know how to use some of the technology, and also that they really wanted to be able to connect with family members who were living in another country. So they decided that the best thing to do was to teach them Skype classes so that they could then connect with their loved ones in other countries. In terms of welcoming libraries and friendly spaces, we find in libraries that it's best to break down spaces according to the needs of the different user groups. And here you have a good example of a small children. They're using available equipment and resources to create a children's corner. But you can see that they didn't spend a lot of money remodeling. They used what they had on hand to create an attractive space for children. And you can do this with all different types of spaces and all different types of user groups. A lot of times we talk about collections in libraries, and users want to receive information in all different formats. They don't simply want to receive all the information in print books. So any user group might be more attracted to the library and its information if it comes in different formats. So to think about adding electronic materials and different formats to the print collection so that the users can get the information in the format that they most want. Friendly policies. This is something that librarians around the world seem to specialize in, creating policies for the users of the library. And most of these policies are not very user-friendly. They tend to tell the users what they're not allowed to do in the library and how they will be punished if they do something they're not supposed to be doing in the library. So one thing to do is to revise policies and signage to be more user-friendly, to create spaces where users can talk and laugh, where they might use their cell phones in the library, or they might use different types of technology. The last slide is about welcoming libraries and looking at friendly librarians. There's a lot of research that shows that users are reluctant to approach librarians who are seated behind a desk. They feel a little bit intimidated. And this applies to all user groups. So one of the solutions is customer service training that encourages librarians to be more proactive with users.